Hi students, today we're going to continue learning about 30, 60, 90 special right triangles. Let's begin with a warm-up. So find the missing side of these triangles. Notice in number 1, so we're given 7 here as the short leg. I know that it's the short leg because it's opposite of the 30. So if you use the pattern, you should be able to know what the hypotenuse is right away. But if not, we're going to reflect, and then we'll apply the pattern as we see it after that. So let's reflect on the long leg, so 90, 60, and then 30. So if this little part is 7, that makes this part 7. I created an equilateral triangle, which makes this entire side 14, so all around would be 14. So again, notice the big connection here between the 7 and the 14. So let me redraw this triangle that I started with 7, 14, and now we need to find y. So using just these parts, I can plug these into the Pythagorean theorem to find the one missing side. So let me do that down here. So you can see the work. So it looks like when we plug it in, we get 7 squared plus y squared equals 14 squared. Simplifying all the way down, we get y squared equals 147. So then we need to take the square root of both sides. And to take the square root of 147, we use the factor tree. And we end up getting that y equals 7 square root 3. So that means this side right here ends up being 7 square root 3 after all of this factoring and all of this simplifying down here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 2. So in number 2, we have another 30, 60, 90 triangle, and we're given the hypotenuse. So if you want to apply the pattern that we've seen, you should be able to know what the short leg is without doing much work. If not, we're going to check that though, so let's reflect this direction, always reflecting over the long leg. So that's 90 flips there, we have 30 and 60. So we made an equilateral triangle, so if this side is 6, this is 6, and this entire length here is 6. That makes x 3, because 3 would be on this part of the triangle as well as this part here. Okay, so let's see what we have now. So let me redraw this. And we've got 3 here and 6 on the hypotenuse. So now I need to find y, which is the long leg. You should be picking up on a pattern, but we're going to do all the work for it again. So plugging into the Pythagorean theorem, we have it all here. So 3 squared plus y squared equals 6 squared. Simplifying all the way to the end, we get that y equals 3 square root 3. Okay, so as we focus all of our attention, I want you guys to look at our final answers so that we can really get this pattern down and generalize it even more. So, this is the pattern that we've discovered. And let me go back to this page so you can really see it. So it would help when we put our 30, 60, 90 on these, just so we remember where those are. So it looks like in these problems that the hypotenuse is always double the short leg. If this is 7, this became double that, 14. The long leg is just the short leg times radical 3, because it's just 7, like the short leg, and then you've just put square root 3 right next to it. See if this happens in number 2. So we have the short leg is 3, the hypotenuse is double, so that's 6. The long leg right here is just double, or I'm sorry, is just the short leg times the square root of 3. It's just 3 square root 3. So generalizing this, I call this the mini triangle. And the mini triangle I use is just the easiest one I can think of, which would be the number 1. So if I give you a 1 here, that would mean that the hypotenuse is double, so it has to be 2. And that would also mean that the long leg would have to be the short leg times the square root of 3. So this is what I call the mini triangle. You don't really need this one in front here, but I wanted to make sure you guys saw it since it is the short leg times square root of 3. Some students and some teachers like to use it with variables. So if I put an x here, the hypotenuse would be 2 times that side because it's twice the short leg. And then the long leg is the short leg, so x times the square root of 3. So these are really important. Make sure you have these down in your notes. We're really going to use this mini triangle as we continue solving for today. Okay, so now, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the missing sides of a 30, 60, 90 special right triangle given the long leg. So this is a little different than what we were learning yesterday when we were given either the short leg or the hypotenuse. Okay, so here are some examples. Looking at number 1, we're given 2 right on the long leg. So it really wouldn't help if I tried to reflect. Notice what happens. I can reflect down this direction. And it doesn't help to reflect because the long leg is right in the middle of that big equilateral triangle. So I'm unable to put any number on the outside of it because we weren't given the hypotenuse or the short leg. So that didn't help us at all here. So the trick here and the strategy we're going to use is to draw the mini triangle. So let me draw the mini triangle right next to this one. And I always draw the mini triangle in the same direction as the original problem. So the 30 and the 60 are in the same spots. So my mini triangle looks like this with 1, 2, and square root 3. And now I'm going to use the idea of similarity. So think back to last chapter when we ended up setting up proportions like this when 2 triangles were similar. And again, that's why I call this a mini one, because one is small and then the other one is just a blown up version or enlarged version of the mini one. So let's write this out. So this side here, this 2, I'm going to put that on top. That corresponds with this square root 3. Notice they're both on the bottom part on the long legs of the triangle. And I'm trying to find the missing legs. So let me fill these in by putting an x on, and a y on those. So 2 corresponds with 3, x corresponds with 1. So let me write x on top here, and 1 on bottom here. Okay, let's solve. So we need to cross multiply. So 2 times 1 is 2. X times square root of 3 is x square root 3. To get the x by itself, we're dividing by square root 3 on both sides. So we get x equals 2 divided by the square root of 3. Simplify more, so we can't have the square root sign on the bottom. So we're going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And you multiply straight across these fractions. So we get x equals 2 square root 3 over 3. So that is my final answer for x. So let me go back into the original drawing and fill this in. So this is 2 square root 3 over 3 as a short leg. So using the pattern, I know from before that the short leg and the hypotenuse are double. The hypotenuse is double the short leg. So all I need to do is take 2 square root 3 over 3 and double it. When you do that, you just get 4 square root 3 over 3. If you're not sure how to double, a couple ways. So we could take 2 square root 3 over 3 and multiply that by 2, because that would be doubling. So when you multiply by 2, you can see what happens when you multiply straight across. You just get 4 square root 3 over 3. Another way to double would just be to take 2 square root 3 over 3 and just add 2 square root 3 over 3. Either way, we're going to get 4 square root 3 over 3. Now let's do number 2. I know we'll need to pause the screen at different times and rewind it just so you guys can really hear it and learn it again. So looking at number 2, we're given the long leg. So I know right away that reflecting is not going to work. So let me start by drawing the mini triangle. Again, draw it in the exact same direction as the original picture. I'm given 5 at the top. And let me fill in some variables so that we can solve these. Oops, and the mini triangle shouldn't have a 5. The mini triangle, so we should know from before, or you can flip back the page or rewind, it's 1 on the short leg, 2 on the hypotenuse, and square root 3 on the long leg. Okay, so let's set up our proportions since we have 2 similar triangles. Let's see, we'll use 5, so 5 over the square root of 3. So notice these legs here, so looking at 5, this corresponds with this long leg on the top. And then let's solve for y in this one. It really doesn't make a difference which way we go. So then we'll put y over 2. Okay, so cross multiply. So we get y square root 3 equals 5 times 2 is 10. Divide by square root 3 on both sides. We get y equals 10 divided by the square root of 3. And we can't leave that square root sign on the bottom, so multiply by square root 3 over square root 3, and we get 10 square root 3 over 3. Alright, so now we can fill that in. We just found y, which is the hypotenuse, so that's 10 square root 3 over 3. Using our pattern, we know that the short leg is just half of that, so let's just put 5 square root 3 over 3 and call it done. Alright, good work you guys. Here are 3 problems for you to try, and then I'll see you tomorrow.